Hello, this is Nathan Wood, pastor of North Dayton Baptist Church, and welcome to day 351 of the McShane reading plan. So glad you could join us. We are in 2 Chronicles 19 and 20, Revelation 8, Zachariah 4, and Psalms 126 through 128. I tremble when I think of the sovereignty of the Lord and how much I don't deserve Him, how much I can't earn His favor, but He chooses to regard those who trust in Him, who love Him, who pursue Him. That's what His Word declares, and we can trust in that. Folks, Psalm 127 says this, "Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman walketh but in vain. It is vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, for so He giveth His beloved sleep." Should we want to work hard to please the Lord, to do well for our family, to be diligent? Yes. And the Lord praises that. But folks, if your focus is on the outcomes in this life, on achieving a goal, if that is the sole purpose, if that's how you zero in, if that is all of your purpose, and it could be anything, it could be your job, it could be your education, it could be achieving power, money, prestige, getting the girl, getting a husband, getting children, taking care of your children, taking care of your parents. All could be wonderful things, wonderful blessings from God. But folks, we are told in this life, especially in a good old American attitude, that if we put our mind to something, if we are diligent, if we are astute, if we have good policies, if we're savvy, if we have discipline, good things will happen. Well, sometimes they will. But folks, sometimes they won't. Kind of makes me think of Dr. Seuss' book. Excuse me, I think it's called "All the Places You'll Go." Lid's baby shower was about that. It talks about all the great success you'll have except when it doesn't happen. Folks, how do we deal with the juxtaposition of disappointment, of praying for the best, pouring your heart out to God, hearing no, maybe. Maybe He says yes. Maybe He says partially no and partially yes, and it's a struggle. The Apostle Paul experienced it. All the apostles experienced it in one form or another. And we draw pictures of apostles with halos around their heads. Folks, they had it rough. Every single one of them, except one, died a martyr's death according to history and the traditions that we have in the church. And that was John, and he was still tortured, imprisoned, maligned. Died old man and alone, rejected by his own church. You don't see any church of Ephesus there anymore, do you? Interesting. Jesus said they left their first love. But you say, Brother Nathan, except the Lord build the house, it's going to fall no matter what my effort is. Is that what it says? Yes, that's what it says. It means if the Lord doesn't have that for you, or He isn't allowing you to do it, it's not going to happen. No matter how hard you try, there's going to be some things that you're going to fall flat on your face. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't try about anything. What does it mean? Or what about this? You might say. Look at 128. "Blessed is everyone that feareth the Lord, that walketh in His ways. For thou shalt eat the labor of thine hands. Happy shalt thou be, and it shall be well with thee." You say, Brother Nathan, my dad died years ago. My mother's in the hospital. My kid is gravely ill. My wife left me. My husband cheated on me. My parents are at odds with each other. My best friend just tried to embezzle funds from me. Going on and on. Bad things. I got a bad diagnosis. I lost my job. I'm filing for bankruptcy. What do you mean? What do you mean it's going to go well with me? Think of the movie based on the true story of Sergeant Alvin York. When Gary C. Cooper, playing Alvin York, turns to Pastor Pyle, being played by Walter Brennan, he said, "Well, I done prayed, Pastor, till I was black in the face." Seems like it doesn't do any good, does it? Sometimes. Folks, God hears. And what he hears most of is the prayer of faith. And what he wants to hear the most is the faith. And ladies and gentlemen, that faith counts for something. Even if God says no in this life. Even if he says partially yes, partially no. And even if he says all the way yes, here you go. Here's the desire of your heart. You see, it's not about the outcomes in this life. Sometimes we get outcomes. God shows us he cares. It hasn't gone as badly for all of us as it might have been, and it might have gone a little bit better. Yeah? As they say, that's life. But what life? Is this life all there is? Is this life all there is? No, ladies and gentlemen. God can keep his promises because, dear friend, if you trust in him, it will go well with you. And this life will not even be close to the fraction of a lifespan that childhood is. We, compared to the understanding that we will have in eternity, don't even have a child's understanding. We think we know so much. We think we can shake our fist at God and ask him why on earth this has happened to us. And the Lord wants to hear from you. But Job, you better think about the time when you're going to have to stand before the Lord, and the Lord's going to say, "You gird up your loins and you will answer me, because I'm going to answer back." Ladies and gentlemen, the sooner we put our faith and trust in him completely and humbly, the sooner we put more stock in eternal things and things above than the things of this life. Yes, there are many good things. We should care about our loved ones. We should care about our wife. We should care about our children. We should care about our finances. The Lord cares about those things. But what did Christ say about it? "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." Which of you by worrying can add 1 cubit to his stature? We forgot that a lot. We forgot about that a lot. Sometimes we fear our circumstances way more than we fear the Lord. Sometimes we fear our circumstances way more than we fear the Lord. Now that's not an excuse to be foolhardy. It's not an excuse to not care about other people's concerns. Not an excuse to be haphazard. It's not saying Brother Nathan says I'm invincible until the Lord takes me, so it doesn't matter. Excuse me. Your choices do matter. I'm not the God of the universe. He is. And it's between you and him on an individual level. Ladies and gentlemen, he invites you to trust in him. Just like he invited Jehoshaphat. I love the story of Jehoshaphat. Why? Because when I think of Brother Ronnie Nicholas, one of the old pastors of when I was growing up at Salem Baptist Church, I think of Ronnie Nicholas preaching a message on Jehoshaphat. And it was because Jehoshaphat knew. He knew from seeing his father's downfall that trusting in other things is not gonna solve the problem. You can't figure it out. Ahab couldn't trick God. Asa couldn't make good enough political decisions. Folks, Jehoshaphat put himself solely in the arms of the Lord. And the enemies destroyed themselves. I love it also. It's such an interesting detail that the enemies of Israel are in the stronghold of En Gedi, that would have really hit home for Jehoshaphat, because that's a safe place for David, and he's a son of David. David, that was like going into one of the places where he might have found refuge if he had to be on the run, and he's like, oh my gosh, my enemies are there. I've got nowhere to go. Folks, sometimes God puts you in a place where you've got nowhere to go. Where you've lost everyone, lost everything, maybe it's a lot of everything, if not everything, a lot of everyone, if not everyone. Everything just seems to be going wrong. Sometimes God lets you get in those positions just so He can see that you will you will make investments in eternity by praying to Him, by pouring your soul out to Him. Because He poured Himself out for you, ladies and gentlemen. He asks us to be living sacrifices. Not to earn our salvation, but that we accept Him as Lord and Savior and trust in His sacrifice and His resurrection. And then He calls us to faith. Sometimes He lets us go into these hopeless situations so we'll cry out to Him. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. It reminds you of Moses and the Red Sea, doesn't it? Peace, be still. Why are you afraid? Why did you doubt? The calming of the storm. Jesus walks on the waves, folks. There's nothing that can thwart Him. Even though there's going to come a time when there's a silence in heaven, and there's a shifting of judgments, when the heavens are falling down. Even in that judgment, God is using it to call people to Him before it's too late. So if you come into hardship and you're praying for the Lord's mercy, He hears you. I can't guarantee you that He'll answer exactly what you want, but you can rest assured if your faith is in Him, and that you're focusing on Him and not just fearing your circumstances or what might happen, if you're putting all of it on Him, you will see rewards in heaven that outweigh anything that you can experience in this life. Stay the course. The Lord loves you. He loved you enough to bear pain and agony, anguish and sorrow and shame, just like we do. Worse than many of us do. Betrayal, false accusation, loss, pain, death. He suffered it all, but He rose again. So when you trust in Him, you can rest assured that no matter what you're going through, there is a joy in the morning. There is a time when we can step out of the grave and there'll be no more death, no more pain, no more sorrow. And it's not just a funeral hope. It's not just pie in the sky. It's not just religion. It's not eating lotuses. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the most real thing there ever was. It's more real than where we are right now. Christ is the way. Trust in Him today. He loves you. We love you. Have a good day.